evening, everybody. Thank you very much for making it to our February Unity user group meetup. We're very fortunate to be here tonight. Thanks to Jason for offering up the space for us. I'm going to introduce Jason in a minute. Before that, our guest speaker for today is Colin Grace from Facebook. He is on the Facebook Unity SDK team. And there's some giveaways and some exciting content. And there's beer and wine. Sorry, no water or juice.
We do have a faucet.
With that, Jason, if you just want to give a quick intro.
Sure.
And
thanks, Hugh.
Right.
All right, thanks everyone for coming. Who is this for this their first time in Execution Lab? A few folks. All right, wow, good. We like live here. All right, so for those who don't know, Execution Labs is a mobile game incubator accelerator. We fund mobile game startups and mentor them and help them go from concept to ship game and work with them on the business side of things as well. We have, I guess, 5-6 teams in the program right now. A few of them are embedded in the room here, trying to pretend this is their first time here. And one of the things that we do is bring in a lot of mentors and partners from around the world to spend time with the teams to give them advice and feedback and help them out. And we're very fortunate that these gurus are willing to share their expertise and knowledge. And we feel it's important for us to share that with the community as well. By hosting events like the Unity User Group or Pixels, which is the other program that helps get more women in the game industry, or even like, what was it, on Thursday we have another event. There's a team in from Ontario called Big Viking Games, and Albert and Chris from that studio, they do mobile and HTML5 games. They'll be talking about building a successful studio. So those guys will be in town and spending time with our team, and then in the evening we open up the front door and let everyone come in from the community. You are all welcome to attend that event as well. You can go to executionlabs.com and you'll see all of our events listed. And if you like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter, you'll get all the updates of when we have guest speakers and events. Anyways, enjoy the event, and if you want any more info on Execution Labs, just check out the website. Thanks for coming. All right, Colin, I think it's up to you now.
Hey everybody. I am so sorry I'm going to miss Albert. He is a really, really smart guy. I love talking to him. Hopefully we'll see him at GDC in California in a little bit. So I'm Colin Kreitz. I'm from Facebook. I came out from California for the event. Where am I on? I totally messed up the joke. I'm on the Games Partnerships team at Facebook. And that means that I've gotten to work with a bunch of really cool technologies over the years. I was one of the people who worked on the Facebook SDK for Unity. I was the web programmer guy, and I got to build that team. That was a lot of fun. I also worked on the PlayStation 4. I wrote PlayStation 4 integration, Facebook side of that, and a few other things. It's been really exciting, and I'm glad to have this opportunity to talk to you a little bit about how we can help you succeed using the Facebook SDK for Unity. So, I want to start off by saying that this wouldn't have worked anywhere near as well if we hadn't been able to cooperate very closely with folks from Unity. Actual engineers came out to California. We locked a couple people from Facebook, my Magnificent 7 I assembled, Magnificent 3 I assembled, a couple guys from Unity, and we came up with a couple of key goals for our collaboration. One, we decided that you should be able to do all of your integration from within Unity, like all in C#. You shouldn't have to worry about any of the platform-specific language technologies, like Objective-C, JavaScript, or whatever. Part of that is because we like the idea of intellectual compactness, right? Like one set of technologies you have to worry about. But also, too, we find, especially with small teams that might start to grow during a project, it really does ease the onboarding burden a lot. So for indie developers, this could be especially important. 2, the web player. Now, the biggest problem with Unity games for the web, I think most of you have found if you've tried, is that the installed base of the Unity web player was at one point not as great as it could be, certainly not at the level of Flash. So we wanted to figure out how we might leverage Facebook to increase the install base of the web player. We'll talk a little bit about how that worked out later. We wanted a smooth, secure Facebook UI for web games. So here's another problem, right? You've built a beautiful, state-of-the-art 3D game. People are playing full screen, hyper-immersive. You want them to have an opportunity to like brag about how they totally decimated their opponents, right? Because that's what Facebook's good for. And then we take them out of full screen and pop up an HTML5 dialog. Terrible. Not a great user experience. We've got to do better. Pony. That's a great picture, isn't it? We wanted a pony. We didn't get one of those. All right, so locked in a room for 2 weeks with the Unity guys. We took Angry Bots, which is sort of like the canonical Unity demo game, and we turned it into frenemy bots. Basically, we built a prototype of the C# SDK that worked across Android, iOS, and the web. Same code in all three. We had login, logout, post to walls, call graph API working. We had the GUI that we talked about that would allow you to have the dialogues inside the full screen game completed. And it just kind of worked. Like, you know, the bots had your friends' faces on them, and then you'd shoot them before they shot you because your friends apparently are very angry at you. We were pretty happy, and now we're going to show you as the fruit of that collaboration, the production version. The result, just to be clear, is that you're going to write one set of code that interfaces with Facebook, and it will simply run across all three platforms that we support right now. That's iOS, Android, and the web. Maybe more are coming. You're going to hear me say the word easy a lot tonight. I haven't said it yet. This is my first time. It won't be the last. All right, so why do you need Facebook for your game? What can we actually do to help you? I want to start by talking about mobile, because mobile first, right? Everyone's talking mobile first, right? Facebook has a unique amount of reach on mobile. 874 million monthly active users, a pretty recent number, it might be slightly outdated now, with an unparalleled level of engagement. 20% of all the time Americans spend in smartphone apps, they spend in the Facebook app. That is a lot of attention in various places. Here's the thing. Part of what makes Facebook so engaging is awesome pictures and awesome stories that are being generated by some of the games that integrate with our platform. So we're happy to share the attention we get with the games that make those interesting stories. And that's where the integration has to happen. And this isn't like an unproven technology, of course, right? What we found, we did a survey at the top, this was about 3 months ago we did the survey. Of the top 100 grossing games on the iOS and Android stores, 82% on iOS and 75% on Android had Facebook integrations. So this is not an opportunity you really want to be passing up. Facebook is cool because of what it does for discovery. The most obvious way to grow on Facebook is to say to your most passionate players, hey, would you mind telling your friends who might like this game about it? And that works pretty well, actually. But we also have these really neat, slightly more passive things. Like, here's an example of a story where in the game Kitchen Scramble, they took advantage of our Scores API, which is like the very easiest Facebook integration you could possibly do. And these stories are all generated automatically by Facebook. High scores, you know, lots of my friends are getting high scores. And I can see what they're doing. And it kind of looks like fun. I mean, I could go play Kitchen Scramble right now, right? Totally kick Michelle Ma's ass. Let's get on there. So beyond the organic channels, we also have one of the most efficient paid install programs in the world. Like, our ads are really good. Our mobile app install ads product has revolutionized the business, basically. It's really easy, too. I'm going to say that a lot. So, for instance, you get this large, vibrant ad unit. The player clicks on it, and it's just one click. They're in the App Store looking at your page, which is, for some reason, terrible screenshots, but that's okay. Or alternately, if you bought that ad for re-engagement, they're taken directly into your app through deep linking. And it's really, really simple, as I'll be showing you in just a little bit. We like to say there's a virtuous cycle at work. You grow on Facebook, and that increases the number of players you have. The number of players helps you grow on the App Store, right? Each of those players has a chance of also spreading the message on Facebook. The idea is that that lets you go up the app charts, and we all know that that can be very important to your game's future, right? We like to say big on Facebook, big on mobile. I wish Julien Cordelier, our European business chief, were here. He says it's so much more cool than I do. And it's worked for a lot of our partners. This is like his catchphrase. Facebook is about more than reach. It's also about quality. Facebook connected users are really high quality. You can see the numbers here. I'm not going to just read them off the wall. One number that I couldn't quite fit on this slide, the StoreMate users, not just 3 times more likely to come back and play again, but 7 times more likely to become payers. Conversion rate is 7 times higher. Now, I used to be a mobile game developer and a web game developer before I joined Facebook, and I remember how we would sweat and A/B test and optimize, optimize, optimize for like 5% here, 10% there, 2% there. Here we're talking about 430%, 300%. Like these are gains that we can't really afford to be ignoring. There's this perception that Facebook is for cow clickers. It is, certainly. There's plenty of room for cow clickers on Facebook, but there's room for a lot more. And one of the things that I think is really cool about Facebook is that because there's such a low barrier to entry on the platform, we have just a ton of diversity of authorial voices, like indie games. Here I have a couple of great examples. Dead Trigger 2, that's actually an in-game screenshot. This is probably like they're, I think, the very high watermark for graphical quality in a Unity game. That runs on iOS, it's beautiful. Just came out, it's gonna be on Facebook platform in 2 days, like Facebook Web, it's already out on iOS, you should go download it. Dragon Academy, and it's just like adorable dragon puzzler. Wow, look at those dragons, they're cute. That's from a developer in Colorado. We also have Nival's King Bounty Legions. This is like a turn-based strategy game. It's a lot of fun. So way beyond virtual cows. This is just the tip of the iceberg. I want to talk a little bit about some of our beta partners. One, because thank you, beta partners. They did a really good job helping us out. And two, because we've had the most time to think about their successes. So let's talk about Nival. What they found was they had trouble getting people into their game because they didn't have enough people who would install the web player. They took advantage of our basic canvas integration, which gives them the flow I'm going to show you in a moment that improves the user's experience of installing the web player, doubled the conversion of users who get to their page up to the time they take the first action in the game, from 30% to 60%. Uber Strike from CMU. Pretty cool game, it's an FPS. You can see all those water effects. Looks like that on iOS too. No idea how they did it. Pretty early on in the process, they built in an in-game camera feature which will let you share screenshots when you own your friends. It turned out it was really popular with their players. Users share about 65,000 pictures a day in that app. And in particular, the first 30 days after they launched it, without even documenting it or anything, 2 million pictures were shared. That's a lot of distribution, you can imagine. All right, so that's an idea of why you use Facebook, because Facebook will help you build your game, it will help you grow your game, and it'll help you monetize. What about how? I want to pound away on this message because it's important. We did a really good job of keeping you in C#. You're not going to need to leave the Unity environment to integrate with Facebook. Write once, run on every platform we support. Here's the key point I'm going to make now. I want to quantify easy. Do it in a day. We've gotten games, we had a games night at Facebook on campus in California, gosh, about 2 months ago. And we had 5 or 6 games actually complete a Facebook integration in 2.5 hours. It's really shockingly easy. And it's modular, right? So you can do just log in today, right? Log in maybe one of the social channels. And then you can get ready for Canvas by adding payments. It takes you maybe another day. All right, if you're not trying to sort out like a bunch of existing spaghetti code. And I mean, even in that case, we actually had a case where we worked with a major developer who had an existing app that they'd been maintaining for, gosh, about a year by the time we got to talk to them. And we still got them in one day, although with a little hands-on help, a whole integration that let them come onto Canvas with a game that had previously only been on mobile, the web. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with an example app. Now, Facebook, if you go to github.com/fbsamples, you'll see we have a bunch of code for a game called Friend Smash. It's our canonical example game across many platforms. Here I'm going to use the Unity version. And I'm going to show you how we integrate the Facebook SDK into this Unity game. So first, I'm going to show you the code that is required to do an integration that includes logging on, getting picture and name, and then sending challenges and bragging. Ready? It's kind of embarrassing. That's it. Pretty cool. I'm going to let you stare at it. It's beautiful, right? We can dive a little bit into the complexity, what complexity there is. And of course, if you're feeling sophisticated, you can make it do a lot of tricks. But if you're not feeling sophisticated and you just want to ship, this is what you have to do. So init, surprisingly, just sets up all the data structures. Basically, the idea here is that init does session management. So if the user's already authorized your app and on that device and the device knows about it, we'll just reuse the existing authorization. Otherwise, we'll set up an empty authorization data structure, preparing it for login, right? Then, and init, by the way, is async. It's the one little bit of complexity that's not on this slide. So in your callback, then you call FB login. FB login takes two required arguments. One of them is the permissions you want to ask for, which could be a blank string. And if you ask for a blank string, you're already getting powerful tools like the user's profile picture and name, which allow you to personalize their experience. And you can ask for more things. We often recommend, for instance, asking for email, because it's usually useful to have a way to contact someone who's having problems. It turns out that doesn't, by the way, substantially drop your most games' authorization rates. I recommend doing an A/B test. People who know me well will say that that's all I ever say. But A/B tests are good. We like A/B tests. And then you pass in a login callback. And the idea is that once the user either declines authorization or authorizes your app, the callback will be passed a data structure that represents the status of their login. It's a very simple data structure. Basically, it says, yes, it worked, and here's who he is, or no, it didn't work, and we're not telling you it. Here's how it actually works in practice. Suppose we made a call like this. fb.login call asking for email and the publish actions permission, which is what you use for posting high scores and achievements. And then a call back. The player sees this, and then they click play game, and you're done. That allows you to personalize the game for each of your players. And this is tremendously powerful for increasing engagement. Like, it works every time. Address a user by name, a player by name. I hate the word user, right? Because there's like only one other industry who calls their consumers users. Let's not do that. Players. So you can ask the player for their name, get it, their picture. They like this. They respond to this very well. And it pictures their friends and so on. Requests. This is actually the simplest of our social channels in terms of how you do it. All you do is call that function, fb.appRequest. It actually has one required field, which is message, sorry, just title rather. But you can actually pass in two text fields. There's also an optional third argument for a bit of data that'll live with the request, so when you retrieve the request, it'll still be stuck there. You might put your tracking code in there or whatever, if you have one. And then it can optionally take a callback, but that's not necessary really for this function. So you go ahead and you call that. In this case, we called it with title play friend smash with me. The player has the option to pick which of his friends to invite, and then click done. When that happens, you've all seen this flow before if you've played a game on Facebook, probably. Select some friends. Here, Allie was suggested. Now we're on Allie's phone. Allie sees this notification. Of course, that's on iOS 5. I haven't made any slides recently. The jewel lights up in the Facebook app. Click that jewel. There's that list of requests. Click that request, and you're in the game, right? Pretty easy. All right, next one is feed. Feed has more arguments, but that's only because there are more text fields in a feed post. That's all. And there's a picture, URL. But all those arguments are just strings. There's nothing conceptually hard here. Call that code, get this dialog box. Player has the option to put in a custom message here. And once they choose to share it, users' friends can like it or comment on it or share it. Can attract further interaction, basically. That's part of what makes this so personal and powerful. Persists on the user's timeline. I keep saying that, I hate that word. Persists on the timeline, right there, and lives for at least a couple of hours to a couple of days in a place where it can easily attract a lot of attention. And again, we're asking for the player's permission to do it each time. Most players don't consider that super invasive. A/B test. And there's more. For instance, we've integrated some of our advanced measurement tools into the SDK. And if you thought that some of the other stuff was simple, here's how you, for instance, publish install events, which allow you to use those ultra powerful and efficient mobile app install ads. You call fb.publishinstall, passing in nothing. That's it, you're done. And that allows you to do one of the most powerful tricks on the platform. You create a mobile app ad, an ad that will go out and find your new players. So to do that, all you do is you go to the Facebook's ad console, say you want to send people to the app, get mobile app users. Then you put a picture in and you write a little bit of text, and you're done. And those ads can go out and find people at very efficient costs. And also with all the power of Facebook's targeting. not insubstantial. So let's see it in action on iOS. Okay, so here we are. I'm sorry for the video quality. I don't know what happened there. I'll explain what's going on. Here we are. We have the Friend Smash project already loaded up. At the bottom, what you can almost see is that there is a unsatisfied dependency warning, which is because we have not yet imported the Facebook SDK. To do that, we download it from the Facebook developer site. We've already done that in this example. We're going to right-click, and we're going to import package, custom package. Yes, that's what it says. Just wherever we downloaded it, it open. It's also on the asset store for Unity as well. Import everything. And in just a second, what will happen is the Facebook item will pop up, and we'll go to edit settings. Fortunately, we zoom in, so you'll be able to see things better. The only required field is a Facebook app ID, and it's easy to get a Facebook app ID. All you have to do is go to developers.facebook.com, which is our developer site, obviously. And once you're there, better video quality, please. You go to apps at the top there and create new app. And you give it a name, doesn't matter what the name is. But the important thing down here is namespace. Namespace has to be globally unique across Facebook because we're going to use it to create a URL. I'll call this Unite Friend Smash because I originally built this for Unite. Category. You'll probably want to choose games because there are certain APIs like high scores and achievements that are only available to apps that call themselves games. Arcade. Go. There we go. And then I remember this. That was like the worst captcha ever. It was not much better, but I think I did that one. Okay, there's that app ID. That's the only thing we need to configure the basic app. So we'll go into the preferences panel over here, paste in that app ID. You know, there's a place to put in an app name. The idea is you can have multiple app IDs available and switch among them at build time. So you can have like a production version and a staging version, for instance, of your app, and easily choose among them. Okay. So we have a little bit of iOS-specific configuration we need to do as well. So we're going to go into the iOS player settings. I apologize for the video quality. I don't know what happened there. And I'm going to tell you what's going on here. There's a bundle identifier. I agree. There's a bundle identifier required. Of course, Apple tells you how to build a bundle identifier. It'll be your domain name in reverse order, a unique package name, com.facebook.friendsmashinity in this case. And all we need to do is tell Facebook that that's the name of the package so that we can do the interactive communication. Add a new platform, iOS, and we're going to put in the bundle ID, same bundle ID. I want to talk a little bit about these other fields right around here. The iPhone and iPad store ID, when you're ready to publish, that's how we actually achieve deep linking into the App Store, right? So we're not ready to publish, so we don't have any values there. And there's a URL schema suffix, which allows us to deep link to your app. Again, we're not ready to do that yet because we're not publishing yet. That's okay. Won't worry about those yet. You must leave deep linking off because we're not ready to deep link because we don't have store IDs yet or a URL schema. Okay, hit save, and we're done. We're now ready to deploy to iOS. So we're going to go, oh, actually, before we do that, we're going to look at the code. Wouldn't that be nice? Here it is in an actual game, so you can see a little bit of how it actually gets put in there. So we're in the onGUI loop, the event. All we do, remember I said it was easy. If you're not already logged in, put in a button that says login. That really is how it works in practice. Login callback is capable of then just parsing out the name and stuff like that from the result. Make a button that says brag, call fb.feed. All the decoration you need is in that if. Right? Of course, you can be more sophisticated if you want with a fancy UI, but you don't have to. And then similarly, even easier, for app request. All we do is we create a button and throw that function in. So now we're ready to build for iOS. And this is the part where I love having a video rather than doing a live demo because compiling is sped up by 10x. Love that part. I really wish we could do that in real life, right? So build, and we're going to click build and run for iOS. And we have to provide, of course, a place to save what Unity actually generates when you compile to iOS is an Xcode project. So we just have to give it a place to save that. Look how awesomely fast that is. Love And there it is in the simulator. Just running. No muss, no fuss. Hit the login button. One thing is that we always provide the best experience for login that's available. In this case, neither the native app nor the native integration is available because it's in the simulator. So we use the web browser. No big deal. And that's true on all of our platforms. You always use whatever is available that's best. We're able to read the picture and stuff. And here's the game. It's kind of Fruit Ninja-esque. We got to click Teddy's picture there, but not click the pictures of celebrities like Jean-Luc. Don't click Jean-Luc. Whatever you do. And also, you can't let Teddy fall off the screen too many times. Oh no, don't click Jean-Luc. Ah! Okay, don't do that. So we scored 5 points. That's worth bragging about. Click the brag button. There's that interface I was just talking about. This game is awesome, so we should probably make a note of that. And then that goes on the timeline. Also, we talked a little bit about the app requests, like sending invitations to your friends. So let's go ahead and do that. Who do you think would be interested in this game? Let's see here. Ian Dundor, he's that guy at Unity who worked with us on the SDK. He better be interested or else. And Brian Jew also wrote, he was one of the Facebook guys who wrote the SDK. He better be interested. Aaron, also one of the guys who worked on the SDK. It's basically the whole team. So we'll send them those invitations, and you already saw how that looks. Okay, so that's iOS. Now, how am I going to make it cross-platform? How do I take it to the web? You're done. All you got to do is change the build target. Before we go ahead and show you how easy this is, like I've got a 2-minute or whatever video on that, why would you come to Canvas? You may have heard rumors of the demise of Facebook's Canvas, games-on-apps.facebook.com. Rumors of its demise, greatly exaggerated. It is thriving. I wasn't able to update the slide with our numbers for last year yet, like for 2013, so I still have to do the 2011 to 2012 year over year, but the trends are basically continuing. We are well over 1 billion global MAU on the desktop. Of those desktop Facebook members, over a quarter of them, that's say over 260 million, play games every month on Facebook.com. That's not a dying platform. In fact, just to put this into perspective, if we add the mobile users back in, so people who play Facebook games on mobile, to this number, the number only goes up to about 100-odd million more, right? There's a lot of overlap between those two populations. And that actually introduces my next theme. People who use both desktop and mobile are your most engaged users. Now, this is actually, I took the liberty of removing the numbers from the axis. I'm sorry, they made me. But this is actually for Facebook itself. Okay, this is our engagement index. So time and quality both go into this. People who use Facebook only on the web are pretty engaged. People who use Facebook only on mobile are also pretty engaged. Less time, but higher intensity. People who use Facebook on both web and mobile are the very most engaged users we have. And we keep seeing that even when we ask our partners. I'm just going to skip down to that bottom line number because that's when everyone is going to wonder, like, how about Candy Crush? What is it that they're doing that makes them so successful? A big part of it, probably, is that they've been cross-platform since almost the beginning. They were actually on desktop first. They find that their users who are on desktop and mobile are about twice as engaged as their mobile-only players. Good numbers. And we're talking about not like a small number of users, by the way, on desktop. I'm going to show you how we did it. We're now well over 130 million of our weekly active users on Facebook who have installed the Unity web player. This is not, so if you come to Canvas, it's not like you're going to find a vast desert with no one in it, really. We probably have the largest Unity-capable player base that you can find. So what do we do? We keep iterating this. You'll probably see many versions of it if you try going on with here it doesn't have Unity installed yet, and going to any Unity game. Here's what happens. So let's just say you're Offensive Combat, which is a Unity game, was a Unity game. They were experimenting. And the user hasn't already installed Unity web player on their current browser. What do they see? They see this. They don't just see a blank screen. We have instructions that are specific to the platform that the player is on, explaining how to install Unity web player. It's Mac, so it just works, right? Down here we have these pictures. Those pictures explain to them why they'd like to install it, because they get to play your awesome game. And this is not extra work on your part, by the way. We pull these out of your App Center, your description of your app you built, basically, that we use in our App Center, that we use in our features, our Canvas recommended bookmarks, and all that stuff. And then we tell them that, and this is sort of where Facebook has a unique advantage, that a large number of their friends have already installed Unity Web Player, and none of them have died of malware yet. So it's probably safe. And it turns out that was sort of like the key insight here. That's driven a ton of installs. I want to also say right now that mobile first is definitely where things are right now, but it doesn't have to be mobile last. Canvas can be a really great tool for moving fast. And the reason why, it's fast and cheap to iterate on the web, right? Essentially no extra cost except you have to invalidate caches. Everyone is always on the latest version. So all your telemetry and everything is all using your latest version of your instruments. What that means is we got a tester's dream platform. This is the place to go when you want to try to figure out balance issues, or you want to tweak your economy or whatever it is. And again, since I'm an A/B test cultist, like, I love the web. All right, so let's deploy to Canvas. I mean, hopefully what I've said has whetted your appetite for doing it, and I'm going to show you that it's like trivial. Change the platform, web player, build. We have to save the resulting .unity 3D object file somewhere, which was given a name. I forgot to speed up this compile. Redid this video. Okay, and then we're going to go, and we're going to actually just put it somewhere on the web. And there are a couple different ways to do that, whatever web hosting you like. I'm going to talk in a minute about parse, which is what we're going to use today. It's, Facebook bought parse because it's awesome. And we're going to parse deploy on the local stuff. What that does is it will mean that at the end of this process, if we go to unityfriendsmash.parseapp.com/client/client.unity3d, we'll find that file. And we need to tell Facebook that. So we're going to say we're going to select platform, we're going to add an app on Facebook, and all we have to do is turn on Unity integration and provide that URL. That's it. It's practically a one-button deployment. unityfriendsmash.parseapp.com/all the stuff in our build path. There are a couple other controls down there that let you fix the height and width of the box that it displays in, but we recommend that you tend to recommend that you leave those off. Save changes, and that's it. Remember we provided that unique namespace at the very beginning? All we do now is we go to apps.facebook.com/that unique namespace. We have a much better looking thing that you can use if you want. There you are, games on Facebook. Full screen. Remember I mentioned that even when you're in full screen, we have native versions of the dialogues that don't interrupt the full screen experience? There they are. That's it. That's really all there is to it. Obviously, at some point, you're going to want to integrate Facebook payments. We even have a Unity version of that. So you don't need to leave your environment too much. But you might ask, what about the server stuff? Really, you need a server to do Facebook payments and maybe do some middleware action for a web version of the game. And that's true. Let me recommend, and by the way, this slide was made by our friends at Parse. I recommend that you consider Parse. Facebook just brought Parse on board midway through last year. It's basically a cloud everything service. So it provides things like relational database it's a web service. It's awesome. It scales elastically to demand. They provide hosting of files. They provide data access controls, really a rich vocabulary for that. And cloud code, which lets you write little bits of middleware as just snippets of JavaScript on the server side, which will automatically handle like elastic scaling, so you don't have to worry about dealing with demand spikes and stuff. Parse has a very generous free tier. If you go through the free tier and need to start paying them, I would say you've got a good problem to have. Ooh, it moved. Just to give you an idea, by the way, Parse has its own Unity SDK, and I want to show you how easy it is to use. Suppose you wanted to persist in the cloud an object of type comment. A comment has some text and it has a user associated with it. That's how you do it. And then there's a get async method that essentially undoes that and reads it in from the persistence layer. Really, and then by the way, there's a web interface, of course, in Parse, and you can see that we've created a record corresponding to that object. It is really simple and very, very powerful. And I bet now you're eager to get started. So I'm going to leave this up. I recommend strongly that you follow our blog, developers.facebook.com/blog. It's where we have our announcements for events and changes to the platform. You should definitely be following this if you have any interest in Facebook development. We have docs and downloads. I have the URL up there. We are fanatical about monitoring the Stack Overflow tag unity-facebook-SDK. There's about, at this point, because the community's grown, a 50% chance that if you post with that tag about the SDK, the person who answers your question will be the person who wrote the code that you're worried about. We also have some docs about Parse's Unity integration at parse.com/docs/Unity guide, and more generally about the very powerful Parse APIs available at docs.net API. At this point, I'm actually ready to turn it over for questions, so go ahead.
Since when does Parse have a Unity integration?
Since August. Anyone else have any questions? Don't be shy.
You were talking about how user engagements were higher for people who were on web and mobile.
Yep.
Could you give some reasons for that?
Part of it is just cross-section, right? So it gives a player more opportunities to encounter your game, right? I think that's probably the largest driver. Some of it is down to, like, just to take a game that I happen to play cross-platform quite a bit, Dead Trigger 2, because I'm in the beta, so I can play it on the web. It's a really satisfying, it's the most satisfying FPS available on tablets right now, in my opinion. But at the same time, sometimes you really just want that high fidelity experience, like big screen, it's pretty immersive. I mean, that game is beautiful. And even the iPad can't quite do it justice. And so, like, some of it just comes down to flexibility as to the preferences of your players. Beyond that, I'm not really sure. I think that those two factors probably account for the majority of the difference. Let me just say that we've never seen a case where it decreases engagement. Guy in the blue shirt.
How does the player log out from Facebook?
You can attach the function fb.logout to a button.
Mobile doesn't work. Because it's linked the Facebook account is linked to the browser, but the game itself for logins on the app.
Why don't we look at what you're seeing? I'm not sure what could be going wrong there. It should work. It certainly worked when I demoed it most recently. It could be a peculiarity of your setup. We'll take a look.
And also for the login on mobile, what happens is that it opens the Facebook app instead of going to the browser or something like that.
Yes.
So inside the game, it's not logged in.
That's true. It's a fast app switch. That's a limitation of the iOS native integration in 6 and 7 that we're working to address. That's actually a temporary situation. So right now, like in a perfect world, the order of fallback on iOS should be use the native if it's available. If the native is not available, try to use the Facebook native app on a fast app switch. And if that's not available, fall back to the web browser, which we know will always succeed, because that's like the lowest fidelity, slowest experience. Right? Right now, for reasons I can't exactly get into, the iOS integration is not responding to the events that it ought to. We're working on that with Apple right now. Expect that to change, and then the idea is that it would be a little blue or gray box that appears inside the app.
Good.
The integration with Android, same thing?
Same thing.
Deployed to another platform?
Yep. So on Android, obviously, you have the hash you need to provide as well, but other than that, it's pretty much the same thing.
So, for testing, I guess this works in sandbox mode, and you can
Create test users and everything, it just works. Although obviously, just as with iOS, there are certain complexities like test users may have issues logging in because of the way proxy authorization works on iOS. What exactly, so, I guess what I'm trying to say is test users work best on the web. We know this. There are issues with them on iOS, they work okay on Android. That's just because of the way that Apple chose to implement proxy authorization. Yes?
Is there a way to post open graph machines using this?
Yes. So you have to use our object API to create them if you haven't already created them on your own website, the actual Open Graph objects, which are web pages, right? Once you've got them created and registered to the API, all you do is you do fb.api is one of the methods here. And you say,
No,
hey, FB.
register them from the SDK, is it possible?
Sorry, to what?
Is it possible to register those machines from the SDK directly?
No, because you need to do that with a with an app access token, right? So you need to do that, basically I would make that part of your build process, because remember, those will be constant across all the users, right? So like when I did this actually at my old company, that was what we did, was we had just a spreadsheet basically of all the achievements we were giving, and then my build script would look at that and try to post everyone. Because the thing is, you can't, if you try to create an achievement that already exists, it'll fail, but it fails harmlessly. So that was what we did every time.
Scores?
Same deal. All you do is you call fb.api, which is like our graph API interface from here. You pass in that you want to do /me/scores for the user's scores, and then you pass in the value as the last argument.
Are you planning on supporting Windows Phone and Windows Store apps?
Most popular question. Yes, I don't have a date yet, but it is on our list of things.
Question? Can you repeat the question? I didn't hear.
Sorry, the question was, are we planning to support Windows Phone? And the brief answer is yes. It is that, like I said, that is the most popular question. Part of the reason we do these events is to get this kind of feedback. We know that this is an issue near and dear to your hearts. We're working on it. We actually, one of the hangups was we need a native integration first to basically interface with. We just got our native integration approved by Microsoft like 8 weeks ago maybe. And I've been on maternity leave for 5 of those 8 weeks. So that was a bit of a snowman block. But we're getting to that, yes.
What about cross-platform multiplayer?
Cross-platform multiplayer. So we don't provide any like real-time multiplayer stuff. Well, that's not entirely true. There's a presence API, which you can look up on Facebook, but it's not very robust, to be honest. What we do provide, though, is cross-platform authentication. And so I think one of the expectations that players have nowadays is that their progress will follow them from device to device. And one of the cool things about the Facebook API, that I should probably have mentioned at some point, is that Facebook Identity Management is available on like every platform, and virtually everyone has a Facebook ID. So it's an excellent choice for allowing you to synchronize at least progress across many devices.
What do you get back in Unity for images? Does it give back texture?
You get a text, yeah, so actually if you call fb.api, you pass in a callback. And the object that's passed into the callback is like it's a union class essentially. That could be a texture 2D, or it can be a string, or it can be essentially, actually we offer a parsed JSON version.
Yeah, about posting on Facebook, using the feed method, we use a URL for the image. Where should we put the image on a server like Parse or?
You can use that. You can use any number of it. It's actually Facebook Photos, your server. The cool thing is
Facebook Photos. You mean like the photos is on Facebook?
Yeah.
Like on an account.
You can get a URL for one of those.
Does it have to be a secure link? The examples you posted were HTTPS?
It should. Well, so here's the problem. If it's not a secure link, most users' browsers will complain about the mixed content. So if you're especially on the web, it's pretty important to do that. Yes. On the hosting front, like the thing is, even if you're serving those images from your server, we won't crawl them every time someone posts. Right? We'll crawl them once and we'll cache them for about 2 weeks on average, unless you specifically invalidate them. So you don't have to worry about getting crushed by the traffic.
All the user code is in C#, but underneath, does it call the framework?
Yes, it does. But we package that with the SDK, so it's completely transparent.
So you don't need the proof or that?
At least the web works with not Unity Pro. I, to be honest, have not tried with iOS or Android, but I think it should work.
So you're calling objective, for example, for iOS, you're calling the Objective-C code underneath.
Yep.
I know that for the callbacks, it involves the delay of one frame delay. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, yes I do.
Is it still there?
Yes.
And another question is that, will it modify the plist in the Expo project? You need to modify it by end if you would.
I forget where we are on that. So I know that we went back and forth, and I know that actually our biggest problem was modifying the manifest file in Android, actually. I'm not entirely sure where the decision ended up. Like I said, I'm the web browser expert on our team. Like, I really wish I could have the iOS guy with me. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But if you'd like, you can send me an email and I can actually pass that along. I'm not 100% sure. I don't think we modified the P list anymore. I'm pretty sure like, we did wind up modifying the manifest.
The iOS SDK, if I recall, it uses some entry in the plist for the URL schemes and also the Facebook ID is there.
Then I guess we must modify the P list.
Yes.
Like I said, I'm not 100% sure, especially since that's like build time stuff, and I was scarcely, because of JavaScript, I was scarcely involved in build time work we did on the SDK. Does anyone have any questions about that?
Custom skinning for the dialogues and everything?
No.
No.
So this is actually kind of interesting. When we went to go figure out how we were going to enable you to have those dialogues in the native version of the web, but do it in a way where we were convinced that the click was genuinely coming from the user and they really meant to do the thing that they're doing. What we had to do is we worked with Unity to have, they built a whole feature for us and we built a whole feature for them on Canvas, where we pass in the secret that would ordinarily go into the Facebook web dialogues to indicate that this is a real iframe sponsored by Facebook that should be able to do these sensitive actions. So what we did was we arranged so that we would pass into the Unity web player a special secret, which would then mutate out of the DOM before loading any Unity code. Unfortunately, one of the consequences of that is that that stuff is all where you can't get at it from user level code. We do offer, even though I didn't show it here, now we have the ability to skin the splash screen now, and also to configure like the initial HTML chrome that's there before your app takes control. And of course, once your app takes control of the web player, it can mutate the DOM around itself, however it likes.
Do you have any good programming practice about the token expiration and if, for example, the user revokes the rights while they're in the application?
Well, you should look in your callback to make sure you have a success. If your callback indicates a 400, you should probably have some code to attempt to reinitialize. Now that said, on mobile, init will usually just work. It will usually successfully reinitialize the token if it hasn't been more than 60 days. And it should report correctly an unlogged in state in the other case. So like, if you're worried about expiration in the middle of a session, watch for 400s on API calls and handle them. That's the best practice. That's going to be a very rare event. We have 60-day expirations on mobile, and we have, God, I think it's 4 hour plus or minus a random amount of between 0 minutes and 1 hour for tokens on desktop.
Unity has controller support. Is
Yeah.
that just working?
Just works. Actually, one of my little projects I did when we first started working with Unity was I built a little mini game of my own that was basically 16 short FPSs, or just 16 control schemes, where in every case what you're doing is running down the stairs and killing it. And yeah, one of the things I did was I did controller support. I tried it with like a regular USB controller and then with the Steel Series. It just worked, because I was on a Mac and everything just works.
Of course. Is there anything available for mobile app tracking or tracking installs?
Yes. So beyond the thing I just showed with the publish install, we actually have so publish install is a convenience method for publish action install, because it's far and away the most common thing people want to track. We also have the ability to publish any kind of actions you want, like funnel, goals hit, or people monetizing, because obviously we can't see transactions on iOS. But if you tell us about them, then you could buy an ad that's optimized for finding payers, for instance. And then you'd be basically buying cost per action ads using our OCPM program. If you go into Insights, once you've instrumented your app, we'll show you graphs of the number of events of each kind and so on. Now, of course, on iOS, there's no such thing as end-to-end tracking of an install, right? Because Apple very specifically strips off identifying information on the way through the App Store. We have last-click attribution, though, which we'll handle for you. Anybody else?
This is non-technical, but you're talking about using Facebook to spread the word of our apps. What is the most efficient? Because there are many things we can do, iScores and stories and this and that. So where should we focus our attention first?
depends a lot on the game. I know that I'm going to give you the enraging answer that you have to test. However, if I had to guess, if you've got the kind of game where there's some sense in which people are taking turns, then you're going to want to use your quests, and that'll work great. And if you're playing a game where people create ambitious user-generated content, or a game where like there's a substantial feeling of achievement when you've succeeded, you definitely want to look at feed or even open graph, which we didn't cover here today. It's similar in principle. And pretty much regardless, if you were looking to get people to install on mobile, I would strongly recommend looking at ads. Open Graph, by the way, is like a whole other channel that I didn't have time to get to today. If you're interested, what this does is it allows you to have structured stories appearing in players' news feeds. And that means they can have like rich data. Like you don't just pass in a couple dumb strings as the arguments. You can pass in like a structured description of what happened. Like this part here is a number. This part here is a coordinate on a map. That sort of thing. And that lets you have some pretty cool story types.
Does asking for help work well? Like in a difficult Candy Crush type game, can you help me out here?
It certainly worked very well for Candy Crush. All right, well, I'm going to stick around for,
Yeah, you mentioned a game that had a successful screenshot sharing.
Uber Strike, yes.
Yeah, is there an easy in the feed command? Is there an argument for a picture that you can just send? Or?
There kind of is, but the way that they actually did that is using the open graph integration, because that's really the natural way to do this sort of thing, because then you can have sensible annotations around it. And also you can build your own custom dialogue, essentially, to do the sharing. If you actually look in the documentation of fb.api on our site, I mean, that's one of the worked examples, is how to do an in-game camera. So basically, you can copy-paste our code. You might have to play around with the UI a little bit, but the principle, it'll work like literally pasted into your app. Are we done? All right, I'm with the sign-up sheets, so I can give some prizes out. Those. All right, I have a lot of these to give away. So.
Is there a place to download the presentation from?
No, not right now, because I just had to rework it, and it's pretty rough right now, but hopefully soon we'll put it up on the dev site once I've had a chance to figure out what went wrong with the videos and stuff. So soon. So. Is Attila Correa here? Is Attila here? Correa? Attila Correa?
Oh.
There we go.
Cool.
Yeah. Julien Didi. Jung-Woo Kim. Jung-Woo? There he is. I knew I saw him back there, way in the back.
Awesome. Thank you.
And then Mike Wozniewski. Thank you. And Limon Linnell. And Sebastien Mauvais.
What do the numbers correspond to if you're looking at a spreadsheet?
Row. You know, we're doing it in a high tech way. Emmanuel Blanchard.
I just want to know, because the next event I go and you're presenting, I want to pick one of those numbers when I sign in.
Michel Conco. Sorry. Pen gave out a little bit through that one. How many more? Four more.
There's one on the 14th.
Kevin Pauline. Yep. Remy Levere. The Blob. David Tugai. Cobb Abdel Hamid. How many more do I have? One more? Okay, the final one goes to 2, 4, 6, 8. Travis Martin. There we go. All right. I'll be hanging around if you want to just chat a little bit, and that's everything.
So, yeah, I want to say a really big thanks to Colin. He actually had more people that were supposed to come with him. He's saying that they had some passport and visa issues, but I think he actually just looked at the weather network and
Everyone loves the hospitality in Montreal. Everyone loves the bagels and the smoked meat.